Hurry up and take your seat because, there's a lot of seats left. There's not many left. Gotta grab what you can. All right. Good morning, everybody. Glad you could be with us today. I am not actually doing a Bible study today, but we are doing what we're calling a Synod Update, which is essentially the annual report of our Synod this year. They put together a PowerPoint every year for people like me to go and do presentations at churches to let them know, kind of give them an update on what's going on in our ministry in the Synod and how we work together as a Synod to accomplish the work that needs to be done across the world and throughout our country to carry the gospel of Jesus Christ to people. So thanks for sticking around and giving us an opportunity to share a little bit about what's going on with the Synod. Talking with Pastor Olson, he thought it was best that maybe we do something like this rather than me trying to jump into their Bible study program because they know what they're doing and it would be a little awkward for me to jump in to do what they're doing. So this is a better way to do it, and we're thankful that we have the opportunity to do this. I will encourage you during this presentation, if as I'm going along you have a question about something or you want to make a comment, feel free to raise your hand and I'd be more than happy to call on you and let you talk or ask a question. You might have to speak up so that they can hear you online, or I'll try to remember to repeat what your question was a little bit so that people online can hear it. But essentially what we're doing here is just kind of giving you an update about what's going on in the Synod and where we are and what we are as a Synod. I wanted to let you know, first of all, I had done this in the classrooms earlier this week, but I don't have a board here to do it, but I had put up kind of a circle divided 4 ways and to demonstrate how our Synod work is divided up. When you give financial gifts to the Synod or a congregation gives their financial commitment to Synod, it's really divided up in 4 general ways. One is world missions, one area is home missions, one area is the worker training, so all of our schools that we support. And then the 4th one is congregational services. World missions is pretty obvious. We'll be talking about each of these areas of ministry as we go through the presentation. So I'm not going to get too much into it. But we have 4 schools we support in worker training. Does anybody know what those schools are? See if you can tell me. I bet you know. Yeah. MLC, Martin Luther College in New Ulm, Minnesota, trains our pastors and teachers at the college level. Seminary in Mequon is our pastor training facility that after they're finished at MLC, they go for 4 more years at seminary, 3 of which are in classrooms. 1 year is a vicar year. Here at St. Matthew, we used to have vicars, but some churches still have them. They are basically pastoral interns, if you will. They spend a year with a pastor under his tutelage, learning how to do all the different things that a pastor does, and they serve the congregation for that year. And then the other schools that we have are 2 high schools or prep schools, Luther Prep School in Watertown, Wisconsin, and Michigan Lutheran Seminary in Saginaw, Michigan. So those are the 4 campuses that we support, and that's the worker training component. And then the congregational services component, that is really kind of a catch-all for all of the different ministries that used to be divided up years ago. They used to have, the youth discipleship and adult discipleship and worship and all that. They kind of pooled them all together in what's called congregational services, and we'll be talking a little bit about what those things are too in the presentation, but that's kind of a catch-all. The hymnal was developed through congregational services, and we're using the new hymnal resources now as a result of their work. So that's just an example of it. I'm going to give you a little bit of a summary of what WELS is right now so that you have an understanding. You can see up there it's the 3rd largest Lutheran church body in the United States. The first largest one is ELCA, the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, which has a couple million, 2 or 3 million, maybe up to 4 million, I'm not sure. But it's a pretty large Lutheran church body. And then there's the second largest, which is Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. The Missouri Synod, that is about 1.2 million. And then we are, as you can see, 1,264 churches, 344,000 baptized members. That includes children. And then there's 275,000 communicant members. That would be adult members. So communicant members would be anybody over 14 who's been confirmed. So anyway, that's the size of our synod. A little bit smaller than it was several years ago. A lot of attrition has happened over the years in a lot of different denominations, including ours. But it is what it is, and we're certainly seeking to grow more, and God has blessed us with that too. One of the largest parochial school systems in the United States. We have 282 elementary schools, 368 early childhood ministries, which over the last 20 years or so have really boomed. A lot of churches, congregations that can't afford to run a full school will oftentimes try to do an outreach into the community through these early childhood centers and daycare centers. We have one at Bethany here in town, our Shepherd Daycare, and other churches do it as well. And so there's 368 early childhood ministries and 27 area Lutheran high schools scattered across the country. Those Lutheran high schools are not synod directed. They are synod affiliated, which means that they are schools that have their own boards and own federations that support them. So synodical dollars don't support those area Lutheran high schools, but they still feed students into our worker training system. Not as much as the prep schools, of course. The prep schools have roughly 50% of their student body ends up going on to MLC, give or take. Not so much in the area Lutheran high schools, but that's not their purpose. Their purpose is to give a high school Christian education, and then they encourage people to consider the ministry as well. 12 districts are in our synod, allow for more area-specific ministry. Our northern Wisconsin district basically is covering the area from Sheboygan across through Fond du Lac and over to I-39 in the middle of the state, and then all the way up north into the UP. That whole section of the country and a section of our state and UP is called the Northern Wisconsin District, and that's the district I serve in my work as a Christian giving counselor. So I traveled through all that area to serve people. Mostly I spend most of my time in the Fox Valley and Fond du Lac areas because that's where most of our people are concentrated, but I do occasionally travel up into the UP and Northern Wisconsin as well. Wells is a member of the Confessional Evangelical Lutheran Conference, an organization of 34 confessional church bodies throughout the world. These are church bodies that are not all English-speaking. They're from different countries, and they are in fellowship with us because they agree in doctrine with us. And so while they're not part of the synod, we are affiliated with them through the CELC. They meet every 2 or 3 years. They have a convention somewhere in the world, and our synod is represented there as well. Wells headquarters is in Waukesha, Wisconsin. Used to be at 2929 Mayfair Road, if you remember that. That was right over by Mayfair Mall in Milwaukee, and then that building became kind of old and beat up, and we were bursting at the seams for the space we needed, and they were blessed with an opportunity to purchase a building that was out almost to Pewaukee on Waukesha. It's just off of I-94. You can't really see it from the road because there's trees around, but if you end up going off the highway, you can see it, and you can actually see the highway from the synod headquarters, but you can't see the highway, can't see the headquarters because of the trees. But anyway, it's a beautiful facility, 3 floors, really excellent stuff, and everything is housed there now, so it's really a great thing. I go there frequently for meetings for my work, and get to spend the time in that great facility. I'm going to skip over this part. This first part says message from the president because in the annual report, in which, by the way, if you are interested in getting a colored printed copy of the annual report, the church received 3 copies, I think, mainly for leadership and the pastors, but you can get additional copies sent here if you ask for them. So just talk to the pastors and they can kind of see about getting them. But if you're interested in that, they don't really send a boatload out to churches because it's too costly to have that many out there, but they do have them available. The president mentions in his message that in 2021 we were able to return to in-person worship and ministry planning at our Wells Synod Convention. It took place at Luther Prep School in Watertown. It was a kind of a 50-50 attendance. 50% were virtual and 50% were in person. God's people provided more financial support than ever in 2020 and 2021. Despite the pandemic, we have been very blessed with gifts from individuals as well as congregations through offerings, and we are very thankful to the Lord for moving His people to support the important work that's going on in the Synod. And of course, as the last statement indicates there, we give the glory to God. Wisconsin Lutheran Seminary, we're going to get into worker training here. That's in Mequon. It prepares men for pastoral ministry. They have 92 students enrolled right now. Just to give you an idea of what that means, that's 92 students over 4 classes, 4 levels. And that means that on average we graduate anywhere from 25 to 35 students per year. We have over 100 vacancies in our congregations right now, which is why you're seeing so many calls. If you guys look at the Wells call list, it's pretty a long list right now. There's a long list of pastors that have calls, and there's an even longer list of teachers that have calls because the window is open right now. And it's astounding how many vacancies there are out there. We need called workers. It's a desperate need. And so if you know of somebody in our congregation or in your family that might have the gifts, start laying the groundwork, encouraging them to be full-time pastor or teacher. We need them badly. And you're going to see pastors getting calls like crazy now because of the vacancies that are out there. It's just happening because baby boomers are retiring and people are passing away and so forth, and there's a lot of vacancies out there. So 92 students enrolled, and that's not keeping up pace with what we need, but we're certainly blessed to have 92 men committed to the ministry. Growing in Grace is an effort that is connected with the seminary. It is a continuing education effort for pastors. So they encourage pastors to continue to learn about God's Word and do college-level courses or seminary-level courses, either remotely, online, or in person at the seminary. They have satellite courses that go on. For example, you might hear of our pastors going over to FEL for a week-long class that's offered by a professor from the seminary. That's an example of Grow in Grace going on. There's also a retreat that goes on annually. It has been off for a couple of years now because of the COVID crisis, but this year they're picking it up again in April. And every pastor and his wife go to San Antonio, Texas at their 1-year, 10-year, 25-year, and 35-year anniversaries in the ministry. And the congregations are asked to pay the trip to get them down there, and funds are also offsetting the cost. They stay at a really nice hotel right in downtown San Antonio. They get to go to the Riverwalk down there and spend some fellowship time with their classmates, which is extremely wonderful. I got to do this in 2019, just after I left St. Matthew, and the Synod covered the costs, of course, but because I was already working for the Synod at the time. But Laura and I got to go down to San Antonio and get to experience that, and it was so uplifting and encouraging to be with our brothers in the ministry and their wives, who we had known back at the seminary days, some of whom we hadn't seen since then. Just to be able, after 25 years, to hang out with those people and be fed with God's Word from people who are very gifted in doing that was really a great blessing. And I encourage you, when that opportunity comes for our pastors, to support that effort. It's a great rejuvenation for them. Pastoral Studies Institute guides and assists non-traditional students, such as pastors who are people who are second career guys who had been in one career and decide to become a pastor. Pastoral Studies Institute will help make a concentrated course for them, kind of individually designed to help them to become a pastor and get the training they need without having them to go through the whole 8-year program, because obviously that can be very difficult when you're trying to raise a family and so forth. So they have ways to assist them with that. That also helps out students who travel to the United States from other countries who want to get an English explanation of ministry and so forth and get trained as well. A lot of those people start out at MLC. We're going to hear about that in a minute. but then they also kind of finish their training at the PSI at seminary. Then the next school is Martin Luther College. That is in New Ulm, Minnesota, serving 714 undergraduates right now. That they prepare men for pastoral training at the seminary and men and women for teaching and staff ministry. So there are 714 students, some of which are pastor track students, some are teacher track students. They also, as it indicated there, prepare international students for ministry in partnership with Wells Mission Fields. Sometimes they take a certain level of course instruction so that they can go back and be an evangelist in their countries. Sometimes they do some preliminary studies and then end up going on to the PSI at seminary. It all just depends on the individual and their situation. So that's something that goes on at the college as well. We have one student, my daughter Megan, goes to MLC right now. She is studying in early childhood ministry. She's in her third year right now, and she has been blessed by support from our congregation as well, and we're very thankful for that. But it's great to have that connection and encourage students to go there, because we've had students from St. Matthew over the years that have become pastors and teachers, and it's very exciting to see them out in the ministry doing full-time ministry work. The Equipping Christian Witnesses campaign, you're going to hear more about this in April when Pastor Dave Scharf, who used to be at Greenville but now is at MLC, he has been there for a few years, he is going to be guest preaching for us in April, and he's going to be bringing this message of ECW to you. This kind of is wrapping up. It's going to be done at the end of June. The official campaign is going to be done. But the effort was really to raise approximately $18 million over, it was supposed to be a 2-year period, but there was kind of a delay during COVID that kind of slowed things down, so it ended up being a 3-year process. This is something that I encourage people to consider giving to when they ask, when I visit with people one-on-one. This Equipping Christian Witnesses campaign, you can see, has 3 components. One is student recruitment, which is something that doesn't cost anybody anything. That's praying for and encouraging young people to consider the ministry. And that component is something that we want everybody to consider doing. Hopefully you can participate in that. The second one is the student financial aid, which is fostered by the Congregational Partner Grant Matching Program. That's a fund that they are pulling together to raise up to $5 million to be in an endowment fund that will help offset or match grants that come from congregations. St. Matthew has been doing this for a number of years for Megan, where the foundation has a fund for ministry students. They send $1,000 to MLC, and then MLC matches it by $1,000, so Megan gets $2,000 in a grant. That part of it comes from St. Matthew. Not only is that great encouragement to Megan that this congregation is behind her and supporting her in her work, but it also reminds you that you have a student at MLC. So this is a great program that we really love, and the financial stability of it is really great right now, and we're hoping to make it so it is a permanent thing, because the student debt is a real problem. On average right now, students are coming out of the MLC with a debt of around $25,000 to $30,000. And with a debt like that, as a called worker, you don't have a lot of expendable income. And when you add together the fact that 2 students are usually meeting and getting engaged, like our daughter just got engaged a couple days ago, to an MLC student. So now we've got 2 students who have that $30,000 debt limit on average. So now it's a $60,000 debt limit, a debt burden that they have as they go into ministry. They have to figure out, how are we going to pay this off? That's a difficult challenge for them. So we're trying to find ways to help with financial aid to make it so that these students realize not only do we support them, but they can also make it through without having too much debt burden when they leave. Okay? And then the last one is the student facilities. Dormitories, the youngest dorm that we have at MLC was built in the 50s. Now, if you understand what dorms were like in the 1950s and compare them to what dorms are like today, quite different. Students get to a campus and they go, "You mean I have to walk down the hall to use a shower? That isn't something I'm used to. You mean to tell me I have to share it with 20 other people on this floor? Really? That's a very difficult thing for students today. And when they're comparing what MLC's facilities are with facilities at larger institutions and public universities, night and day. So this is something that has to be updated. And so that's part of it, is updating the current dorms that we have, but then also adding an additional dorm, because the goal in the next 10 years is to have 1,000 students on campus. If we can have that, we're going to need more dorm space. We already have need for it. And so they want to build a new dorm that has the state-of-the-art stuff in it, air conditioning, that kind of thing that students expect. So, yeah, there's no air conditioning in our dorms right now. So that's not what we're used to in our lives these days. Anyway, there is a blessing to mention here. Part of that program was also an athletic center, a field house that was going to be built on the extended campus of MLC. And we had a generous donor who worked with one of us Christian giving counselors recently in Michigan. His wife was close to passing, and he wanted to do a legacy gift for her. And he had done this before. He has a great propensity, and he said to the Christian giving counselor, "Do you guys build any field houses ever?" Out of the blue, he said this to him. And the guy, "Well, as a matter of fact, we have one that we're trying to build at MLC." He says, "Well, I'll take care of paying for it." And he ended up, there was already some money raised. He ended up paying the balance. We have no idea how much that is, because part of the agreement was it's not going to be publicized how much he donated. But it's a significant amount, obviously. And that building has been built and is now on campus and will be used shortly. It's on the verge of being ready for use, and then they're going to be dedicating it soon. So it's a very exciting thing, and that is a field house that is needed for indoor practices. It has additional locker room space. It has a golf simulator in it. It's got classroom space that we need, and abilities to teach future Phi Ed student teachers how to teach Phi Ed, because we haven't had a lot of space before this to do that. So we're very thankful that the Lord provided that gift. All right, we're going to have to move a little more quickly here. Luther Prep School in Watertown and Michigan Lutheran Seminary prepare high school students to be future pastors and teachers. They are like area Lutheran high schools, but they're more concentrated in their study to focus and encourage students to go to MLC and be called workers. So that's why they're supported by our synod. We have that one in Michigan and one in you can see the students there, 425 students at LPS and 182 at MLS. And like I said, approximately 50%, give or take, depending on the year, go to onto MLC. And so it's a feeder school for MLC. We'd love to see that percentage go up too. World missions. We're going to shift to that piece of the pie here. Conducts outreach in 44 countries and is exploring opportunities in 20 additional countries, including Europe. We have word that there is an effort to try to start up a mission in London. That is in the works right now because of some encouragement and need there. But right now we've been serving Europe with a chaplain that goes around and travels to different areas and serves WELS people and military people in the European area. But they're hoping to maybe get some more mission work done there. As well as 20 additional countries, 19 other additional, well, many additional countries all over the place that are being reached out to as well. 41 missionaries right now in our synod partner with more than 400 national pastors to conduct outreach and train more than 380 students for service in Christ's kingdom. Our mission work, world mission work, shifted a number of years ago. It used to be we would send people like me, white guys like me, to go and train in the language and the culture and then be missionaries to the people wherever it was. Now what they do is they use guys like me to go over and oversee and train national pastors or people from the culture who know the language already, who want to be pastors, share the gospel with them. They say, "I want to be a pastor," and then they train them. And then those people go out and be the pastors, and then the expatriate missionaries that look like me go over there and train these people and encourage them and support them, okay? So that's how we're doing most of our mission work now across the world. And so we have seminaries even that train students. In India we have a seminary, in Southeast Asia we have one, we have some in Africa as well. A lot of students are training to be pastors in their own native culture and language, and it's really a great blessing to be able to spread God's kingdom that way. Let's go on here. Apache Reservation. That was our very first world mission. And so the Apache Reservation, it is English speaking, and it is in the Apache Reservation, which is down in the Arizona area. The Apaches was our first mission work 150 plus years ago when our synod started. We sent a missionary or missionaries over there to work. At one point, the chief of the Apaches was actually a WELS member. And one of the missionaries, Art Ginther, actually got to a point where he became a member of the tribe. They made him an honorary member of the tribe because they so enjoyed him and his presence. The Apache work is still going on there. They have 8 churches, 1 preaching station, and 2 elementary schools going on there. They used to have a high school there, but unfortunately it had to close. I think they're making efforts to maybe try to get that started up again. One of our members, Carl Klein, has rebuilt computers as a side hobby, and he drives them down there annually and brings them to the Apache Reservation so that they can have those computers for use in their classrooms. So there's a direct connection from St. Matthew right there to the Apache work. In Africa, missionaries and national pastors from 6 existing countries are exploring mission work in 10 additional African countries. In Europe, national churches are partnering with WELS missionaries and the Pastoral Studies Institute to train the next generation of church leaders there. Who knows how God is going to bless that? We hope it brings God's pure gospel back to Europe, because it has fast gone away for many generations, and so we want to see it come back. In Asia, the AsiaOne team is coordinating resources and partnering with sister synods to reach out to the gospel to Buddhist, Catholic, Hindu, and Muslim individuals in 9 different countries. You might have heard recently we had an opportunity going on in Vietnam, in Hanoi. They had an opportunity where a Christian group connected with one of our WELS pastors, who was a Hmong person, who had been preaching and posting his sermons online. They connected with him, and after a series of discussions and work, they said, "We like what you're doing, and we want to partner up with you." It's a Hmong Christian Fellowship Church. It is approximately 100,000 members and about 60 pastors that are serving those 100,000 members. And we are working together with them to build a facility in Hanoi. And we are the only Christian denomination that is being allowed to do Christian work in Vietnam right now, because the government is so enamored with what we've been able to bring. They're opening up the doors so we can set up this training facility, which is being built, and we will be training students for generations to come, hopefully, and connecting with these 100,000 people, and they will become, much like the CELC, they'll become another affiliate, if you will, of the Synod, and doing mission work among the Hmong, which is a great blessing. East Asia, missionaries are coaching and mentoring 45 mission group leaders in spite of tightening security, and Asia Lutheran Seminary is reaching hundreds of new students through new online classes. There's a lot of work going on in Asia and in East Asia. China in particular is a bit challenging right now. You might be familiar with what used to be called Friends of China, now is called 316 Now. They had to change their name because Chinese government is keeping an eye out for Christian spreading, and they had been meeting in households privately and doing online courses, and now they're cracking down on the online stuff. So 316 Now needs your prayers and support. That is a Synod-affiliated ministry, but nonetheless they are doing God's work over there, trying to reach Chinese people with the gospel. In Latin America, the Academia Cristo online training tool was something that started up just before COVID, and it has thrived. We are having people from, as you see there, 360 people are in self-led classes online, and missionaries have identified more than 25 men in 11 different countries as potential church leaders. These are people who have demonstrated by their aptitude that they could be possible evangelists and pastors. And so they're working with them. The Latin America team is working with them to get them even further trained so that they can do things. We've already had people who have gone to this Cristo website and actually are starting home churches through the efforts of this online tool and being connected with our missionaries. So all across the world, we're getting all kinds of mission work going on just because of this website that was set up that has been such a success. It's really a great thing. Multi-language Productions is kind of a translation group that takes resources that the publishing house prints, things like the Luther's Catechism, other books, the People's Bibles, and that kind of thing. They translate them into other languages so that other cultures can utilize those gifts and those books. So that is something that they work on. They do a lot of different work. They are also housed at the Synod office and do some wonderful work in 56 languages on a variety of platforms. Some other highlights. Central African Medical Mission is the nursing group and missionaries that work among, and it has celebrated its 60th anniversary. That they serve, I got the number here, they serve 70,000 patients per year at Central African Medical Mission in Malawi. That is, or in Zambia. Is it in Zambia? I can't remember where it's at. But it's in Africa, and it's serving 70,000 people. They come in, they get their shots, inoculations, they get their health care that they need, and they get Jesus. And these nurses go over there and use their expertise and then share Jesus alongside of the missionaries who are working among these people. And so it's really quite a great thing. It's been going on for 60 years, and now it's serving 70,000 people a year. A new synod was formed in Latin America as well. There's information on this too in the notes here. The Latin American Synod in October 2021 it's shown there. That picture is showing you there that what's going on with it. And there are, let's see, in Colombia, Dominican Republic. There's a couple of other countries too that are connected to this new synod that was formed in Latin America. It's again something similar to an affiliated synod that's in doctrinal sync with us. And so while synod doesn't necessarily direct their affairs, they are connected with them in ministry. So it's, again, more mission work that's going on. In home missions, they've approved 5 new home missions and financial support for 4 existing ministries just in 2021. That doesn't seem like a lot, but there are plans right now to start out a new effort that will open 100 new home missions and enhancing 75 existing ministries in 2023 to 2033. So the next 10 years, it'll be 100 missions in 10 years. You're going to be hearing more about that in Wells Connection and in Synod publications because that's the next emphasis after Equipping Christian Witnesses sunsets. There's going to be an effort to encourage people to give to that and to support that, and you're going to be hearing a lot about that effort as well, so that we can get here in our homeland opportunities to share God's gospel as well. Campus ministry, that is something that's also important that's going on. These are houses, buildings, local churches that are in or near campuses in our public universities. As you know, our public universities are pretty much a threat to Christian morals and thoughts. They oftentimes undermine them. Our students who go there need to have support, and these campus ministries provide that support, both in education, Christian education, but also encouragement, fellowship, worship, all that kind of stuff, Bible studies. All that takes place in the different campus ministries. We have a full-time mission counselor, Dan Lindner, who is now serving all of the Wells campus ministries as an overseer of all of them. But then we have local pastors that are working in these different areas as well. So if you have a student that's going to a public campus, check into it with your pastors to find out if there is a campus ministry or a way to keep in connection with them through campus ministry. Now, congregational services. They provide resources, training, and personal assistance to congregations so they can carry out gospel ministry in the most faithful way on the local level. So they help you as a congregation do the work that you do, and they help all other congregations as well. The resources are there at that website. They include training videos, leaders' guides, Bible studies, graphics, and more. As I mentioned, our new hymnal was a product of congregational services. When you see Bible studies come out from the Synod, stewardship programs, all those kinds of things are a result of congregational services working on those things, okay? Some highlights, they also encourage prison ministry. The Ministry by Mail program reaches more than 70,000 inmates, and 83% of Bible studies distributed get responses from inmates. The 70,000 inmates are connected. One of our members, Faye Parsons, actually does some of this connection Ministry by Mail program. A lot of it is just grading quizzes and things like that, and it's an encouragement to those prisoners who are in a dire situation, who need to hear about Jesus. And that's something you can do from your home. So if you want more information about that, talk with Faye, because she would love to get you connected with it and do what she's doing. It's been a great blessing to her, and it's been a great blessing to a lot of inmates as well. Military services, we don't put military chaplains into the military services. And that's because the military requires that they do all of the different religions. So if we send a Wells pastor as a chaplain, that Wells pastor also has to be a Jewish chaplain, a Catholic chaplain, and everything else. And the reason, that's why, that doesn't fit with our ministry plan and goals. So what we do now is we have ministry chaplains who are not really a part of the armed forces, but what they are is they work alongside of the armed forces and work with the individuals who are Wells members in the military. And that's what military services does. It supports people in that area and has resources. We have 120 contact pastors located around military installations around the world. And so they all work and connect with Wells people who are in the military. Some other highlights are Wells schools. You can see some numbers there. We have almost 3,000 Wells teachers, 423 schools, almost 45,000 Wells students in those schools, and 68% of Wells schools had enrollment increase and growth during the 2021-2022 school year. A lot of that is a result of less COVID restrictions at our schools, different from what the public schools are doing. Another thing is the choice program. The school choice program has been opening up gates to allow some non-members to come in and bring their children to our facilities. This has been a great outreach tool that God has been using to bring families into churches. And it's happening all over here in the Valley, all over the state, and really all over the country in different ways. So God has been blessing our area Lutheran high schools, or area Lutheran grade schools, I should say. They also oversee Christian aid and relief. They have approved $470,000 for humanitarian aid projects in world mission fields in 21 and 2022. Granted money to congregations to help during the pandemic and offered disaster relief as well. That's where they really get mobilized, is when there's a tornado or damage done. They like to work with the local church to provide resources. They might send a group of workers to go down and help rebuild things. It all just depends on how they want to serve and can serve for the situation. But Christian Aid and Relief is a great tool, a great group that does some great work to help people in a real time of need. Communication Services is the ones who are responsible for things like our logo. They're responsible for Facebook messaging, all that kind of stuff that Wells does, the website, that kind of thing. They work on all that stuff. They also put together the Together newsletter that you see, the video, Wells Connection videos, Forward in Christ magazine, and other social media sites are all managed by them as well. And then there's technology. They are the ones who take care of all of the techie stuff, computers and all that kind of stuff, to make sure that we're using the latest technology to share the gospel. Ministry of Christian Giving is what I'm a part of. They are, over the past 14 years, giving counselors like myself have helped members offer $93 million in immediate or current gifts, and then $419 million in deferred expectancies. That's what I do, is I help mostly people with expectancies, meaning helping them with their estate planning so that they can remember the Wells and their local congregations and affiliated ministries with ministry support through their wills and through their estate plans. So that's what I do. I'm going to have the opportunity to share that information with you more directly when I operate in my role as a Christian giving counselor in April. I'm going to be preaching again and doing a presentation that I do at other churches as well that kind of tells you a little bit more about estate planning and offers my help to you to do that estate planning or to update your estate plan if you need it. And then there's Northwestern Publishing House. You know about them. They release more than 39 Christian resources in print and digital formats, including the majority of the Christian worship hymnal suite volumes. So they didn't design the stuff. That's what Congregational Services did. But Northwestern Publishing House printed it and made all the resources available. And then benefit plans. They serve WELS and ELS workers and organizations through administration of the health plan that we have, as well as what used to be a pension plan and is now the Shepherd plan, which is really a change from a pension plan to a defined contribution plan for future workers. That shifted this year. That was approved at the Synod Convention last summer. Basically what it does is it uses the money that the congregations pay, or a portion of the money that the congregations pay, to give to the individual called workers so that they can invest it as they see fit using the Shepherd Plan guidelines. So they can, be more aggressive with it or less aggressive with it, whatever they choose to do. Gives them a little more flexibility, and it makes it possible for them to share what their resources are after they're in heaven with their family. Because before, pension plans would shut off as soon as the called worker passed. So now the pension plan goes on because it's in this employee contribution program. So it's a much better deal for all of our called workers across the board, and it's also going to be easier to manage financially because the pension plan is not a model that works anymore because our life expectancy has gone up, and so people live longer, and that means they have to be supported longer in the pension plan, which means it deteriorates as far as its viability. Okay? So a few other things to wrap things up here. Church Extension Fund provides loans and grants for WELS congregations through funding received by gifts and investments. You can see there the numbers, $15.4 million of new loans and $1.98 million of new grants. Requests were approved in just that last year. $1.66 million in grants to the Board for Home Missions to do mission work. And then loans are provided for 205 congregations and affiliates. What they're doing right now is really becoming a savings and loan for the Synod to do to benefit you in your resources that you invest, but then also to the resources that they make can also benefit congregations, particularly mission congregations, to build facilities at a much lower cost than they could if they went into the regular environment to get loans and stuff. So it's a great program. A lot of people like to assist that. WELS Foundation works side by side with Ministry of Christian Giving and myself to do work to support WELS ministry through planned gifts. I'm not going to get a lot into this. I'd probably talk more about that when I'm here in April. But in 2021, in 2020 and 2021, they distributed $13.7 million from donors to various WELS ministries. They're kind of a pass-through organization that helps you do what you want to do in your Christian giving. And then WELS investment funds, which our foundation funds are now invested in. This is a pool of resources from all the different WELS organizations and churches that choose to be in it. You can see the investment returns are really great. They're in the 90th percentile among all foundations for the second year in a row. They are got a great return on investment, and if you talk to anybody on our foundation board, they will tell you that they have done amazing things for us compared to what we used to have as far as investing. Because they have $260 million plus invested, they have great rates, they have great people managing the funds. It's just, it's a really great blessing. And WELS Investments, they're connected with WELS Foundation and do some great things as well. Financial Services is just the Treasury Department of the Synod, if you will. They're the ones who receive the gifts and process them and also handle our budget and oversee our budget and so forth. Congregational mission offerings are coming in at record levels over the last couple of years. Again, thanks to God for that, and thank you for your continued gifts as well. WELS has strong reserves also. We have a contingency fund, if you will, that protects us if our budget is not met through gifts, and it's being blessed greatly, so we are protected in case of problems in the future. And also these funds will also help initiatives like the 100 home missions in 10 years as well. Finally, I'm going to wrap things up here just by thanking you. Thank you for your support to Synod. You might not know this, but your gifts from a congregation, our congregation has committed $15,000 this year from which is about 4%, I think, of our budget. That's directed towards synodical work. And then that does not include your individual gifts that come through your mission envelopes. That's above and beyond that. And then also the money that comes from the foundation that it goes every year to the Synod is also above and beyond that 15,000. So we're doing some great things. We hope and pray that ultimately our budget will be at a point where we can continue to increase that amount, because we are working together as a Synod to provide resources so that the Synod can do work that you and I can't do, that our congregation can't do on our own. And so I hope this gives you a little bit more information. Do you have any questions right now? I think we got a couple of minutes yet. Yeah, we do have a few minutes if you do want to talk or have any questions about what we talked about. A lot of information, but happy to answer any questions to the best of my ability. I'll wait for the hands to go up and take a sip of coffee. Yes?
I guess I've always wondered, what is the capacity of the seminary or Martin Luther? Are they 80% full enrollment-wise or below 50? How many students could they handle?
This is a better question for Pastor Scharf when he comes, because he'll have more detailed information. But as I understand it, MLC right now is about at, I wouldn't say at capacity, but it's pretty close with the current facilities that they have. If they want to have 1,000 students in the next 10 years, they definitely need more space. And so the field house helps with classroom space as well as athletic space, but it also, the dormitory is really important too. So as far as the seminary goes, I don't know those numbers specifically, but I know they've got room for more. But they're going to they may have to add on too if they have more students, and that's a nice problem to have. But we don't have that problem yet. So that's the best I can tell you as far as that goes. I don't have specific information.
Like most colleges?
Married students do live off campus in many cases. They do have some campus housing for married students, but at seminary. At college, the married students do live off campus, but there aren't very many married students at the college level. There are some, but not very many. To answer your question, yes, they do sometimes live off campus, but that's a challenge too, you know, because paying for an apartment on top of the food and everything else, and if you have a family, it's a challenge. So there are resources that the schools have that can help with that, and there's other ways that people show support as well, but food pantries and that kind of thing. But to answer your question, yes, there are some off-campus housing, but it's not really owned or run by the seminary. It's really up to the students to figure that out. Yes?
Okay, so they want to open 100 new home missions,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a lot of calls out there. How are we going to balance the needs?
It's a both and. We've got to get more workers. There's no
Right,
question.
I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
I just was
Yeah.
curious as to how you
It's
fill both needs.
yeah. We do need to continue recruitment, and they're going to continue to do that. But it takes people like you to recognize the gifts in people, whether it's your grandchildren, your children, or your or members at your congregation or other congregations. Don't be afraid to say to them, have you ever thought about this? You'd make a great teacher, or you'd make a great pastor. And it doesn't matter if they've already started another career, because they may not be happy in it, but they might still want to be a teacher or a pastor, and we have tools to get them to that point and to their goal. So we need the called workers desperately. There's no question about it. And, you know, we can continue to pray to God to provide workers for his field. But, yeah, that is a challenge. But it's a 10-year challenge, and we hope to, you know, keep encouraging those students at the high school and grade school levels now to consider ministry, and they're making concerted efforts to do that in hopes that more students will make that decision. Any other questions? Yes, Ben.
So this is even like 8-10 years ago, but one of my professors in MLC was going through numbers of pastors retiring in the baby boomer generation. Part of that's projections, obviously, and number of people graduating per year. And at one point,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's still the case, because that's old information.
Yeah,
That's
what,
it was at some
for the benefit of those at home online, Ben was just saying that a pastor did a study recently on his own that said that, and it's not as real recent, but still, at the time, there were 52, on average, 52 pastors retiring and 25 pastors starting. So you can see how that's going to cause attrition. That's going to be a real problem. It already is. I mean, we're already seeing that now. And on top of that, we're dealing with a situation where pastors have been more financially savvy with their savings over years, and so they're able to retire at an earlier age. So that's in addition to what we've already been talking about, not just somebody turning 70 or 75, it's somebody who's 62 who's decided, hey, I'm going to retire because I can. And God bless them for that, but that means more vacancies, doesn't it? And thankfully, a lot of those guys still have the gifts and abilities to preach, and so they still help out either as a vacancy pastor or as a part-time pastor or perhaps as guest preachers. So that we have that a lot happening here in the Valley. So those guys just don't go away necessarily. Some choose not to, but many do still preach. So God is still providing, but we need more workers. We need more called workers. So continue to pray for that and consider people that you know in your life who might consider that and get them in touch with someone because we need them, definitely. Any other questions? Well, I'm going to wrap it up then. Oh, you have a question. Go ahead.
Is the Missouri Synod a part of that group that we talked about early on?
The CELC?
Yeah.
No, they are not. This is just affiliated with us. They're not in doctrinal fellowship with us because we have differences in doctrine. And while the Missouri Synod has some great things going on that are drawing us a little bit closer, we're still not there yet. And there's continuing discussions going on, but it's just not there yet. And there's a lot of reasons for that that I can't get into right now. But that's not saying that those people aren't Christian. It's just saying that we're not in lockstep doctrinally where we're comfortable working together with them.
Is the ELS the only other one in the United States in there?
Correct.
All the other ones are overseas?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Those are the only ones that we're in fellowship with. And there are other ones. There's the CELC, which is also a smaller, very small church body, a Lutheran church body, that is also not in fellowship with us, but that's by their choice, not ours. They believe that we have some issues, and so they've removed themselves from us. But they are a very small group of maybe 30 churches or something across the country. But yeah, there are other conservative Lutheran churches, including the Missouri Synod, which in general is conservative, but part of it is not. And that's where the issue lies, largely. Why we can't be in fellowship with them, because they're not dealing with that. So, yeah.
Be like in Africa, right, where they aren't going to call something a Wisconsin Synod over in Africa.
Correct.
Or whatever,
Correct.
Remember the name now, what
Yep.
they call it, but I mean, there's a lot of other ones where we do mission work, and they're just not Wisconsin Synod, but they are in fellowship.
Well, as Ben mentioned on Thursday in our class, there's one congregation in Germany that is its own synod. They're all by themselves, but they're part of CELC. So, that's that's an example of one of the churches. It's just one church, but they're conservative Lutheran, and they're in lockstep with us doctrinally. So we're in fellowship with them. Well, thanks for your time. It's been a pleasure to be here. I hope this informed you a little bit about Synod. If you have any questions, I'll be available after church to talk with you. More than happy to do so. And I'm always here in worship, so come and talk to me if you have any questions about synodical stuff. I usually know something, enough to make me dangerous. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you, and God's blessings to you, and may God continue to bless our Synod and our work here at St. Matthew. Thank you.